All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon for this afternoon's Housing Development Fund webinar, where we'll be discussing this summer's RFP cycle. Okay. First, just want to do some brief introductions. My name is Mike Englehart. I'm the Housing Trust Fund Manager here at the City of Charlotte, and I'm joined by my colleagues Harold Thompson and Leslie Blazer, as well as Janine Simmons, our housing admin. First, I just want to point out, if you have any technical difficulties, please communicate via the chat. However, please don't be stressed. A recording and transcript will be posted in the days that follow. Another note, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please drop those in the chat. You can put those in at any point in time. We will hold on answers until the Q&A, but you are welcome to put those in as they come up. And please don't hesitate. So in today's agenda, we're going to go through the background of the Housing Trust Fund. We're going to walk through the process and schedule, review some eligibility criteria, and then perhaps most importantly for any returnees is go over what's new in the Housing Trust Fund or in the Housing Development Fund RFP. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. So I think this presentation will be fairly short and brief, so we can spend most of our time with any questions and answers that folks may have. So just as background, the Housing Trust Fund was created in 2001, which is the city's primary tool for creating and preserving affordable housing across the city of Charlotte. This includes rental, homeownership, and supportive housing. It is funded by voter-approved affordable housing bonds, and this typically occurs every 2 years. City's investments are leveraged with private sector funds through partnerships with developers. These, for multifamily rental purposes, these frequently include the low-income housing tax credits. Since 2002, whenever we first started making our initial awards, we've invested around $300 million and have funded well over 14,000 units in shelter beds. We're quickly approaching 15,000 actually, and expect to hit that after this round. So just to go over the proposal review process, in phase 1, we announce the RFP, and then once applications are received, we notify City Council and initiate our review of proposals. About 45 days later, summaries are sent to City Council with our recommendations. From there, it's entirely in City Council's court for funding decisions. After that, once fund awards are made, we negotiate, or not negotiate, we work directly with development partners to finalize any terms of our agreements before moving into financial closing and then construction and monitoring. So the schedule for this summer's round, the RFP was posted on June 13th. We are hosting the webinar today on June 23rd. And most critically, the application submission deadline is July 25th, 2025. So about a month and a few days out from today's date. After submissions are received, we then work, we being the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department, work closely with our friends over in planning to review both the application as well as the sketch plans that are submitted. Over the next few months that follow, we work, like I said, closely with those folks, go over any questions and concerns that we have with developers before culminating in our presentations to City Council. The date for the first City Council meeting this summer's round is actually in fall, October 13th, 2025. It was expected City Council approval occurring on October 27th, 2025. If you participated in last winter's round, you may notice that there is something missing from the schedule, which is the pre-submittal meetings. We did attempt to host those last winter. However, due to the unprecedented level of demand for the Housing Development Fund, we were unable to accommodate those meetings, and so we have dropped that from this summer's schedule. However, we would greatly encourage you to reach out to our planning staff to discuss any questions or concerns you may have, just to ensure that you're up to date with any of the new design ordinances. So high-level eligibility, we have 3 eligible activities, which are multifamily new construction or renovation, single-family new construction, or supportive housing renovation and new construction. A couple of ineligible activities that we're not able to fund through the Housing Trust Fund or the Housing Development Fund are projects under construction, acquisition, see NOAA and TOD RFPs, and I will talk briefly about those at the conclusion of today's event, and then any project outside the scope of the RFP. So looking at that first eligible activity, multifamily development. In short, we provide gap financing to both nonprofit and for-profit developers for the purposes of affordable housing development. We have flexible structuring. It's typically soft funding, flexible subordinate loans. One of the keystones of this program is the 20% of the units must be targeted to families earning up to 30% of the area median income. And then next, the priorities for this category, this funding category: transit accessible areas or those within resource-rich neighborhoods, those that offer resident services that enhance stability and opportunity, such as workforce development, healthcare, or financial wellness. And this is indicated through the level of resident services that are provided at the site and/or partnerships that are established through the development. And then lastly, those that include larger unit sizes to accommodate families. We see a lot of studios in 1s and 2s, but we're also strongly supportive of those with 3 or 4. So those 3 kind of make up our prioritizations for multifamily development. Next, under single family development, this funding is provided as either a construction subsidy or down payment assistance. Units must be deed restricted and remain affordable for no less than 15 years. And then just to take a step back, for the multifamily, there's also a deed restriction requirement. I believe that threshold is 50 years, but I will go back and double check that, but I believe it's now 50 years. And then our priorities for single family development is the targeting of households at 80% of the area median income or below, with an emphasis on entry-level buyers and first-generation home buyers. We're looking to prioritize those that incorporate innovative ownership models, whether it's shared equity, community land trusts, or some other innovative approach to the ownership question. We're supportive of exploring new possibilities there and give those applicants prioritization. And then next, sustainable building practices and a focus on high impact areas. And then the third category, the last category here, supportive housing. To be eligible for this category, you must be a continuum of care recognized supportive housing need and must be meeting a continuum of care supportive housing need in the community. Apologize for the fumble there. So this is homelessness, mental health, justice involvement, etc. Must be a nonprofit owner and operated, and must include appropriate supportive services for whichever housing need you are meeting. The priorities in this category are comprehensive supportive services on site or through partnerships, creating mixed income environments to foster inclusive communities where supportive housing units are integrated within broader developments, and then those that are strategically located in areas with access to healthcare, social services, and transit. And depending on the type of population you are serving, access to any amenities or resources that would prove beneficial to those groups. So for instance, if you're supporting veterans, access to the VA, for instance. And then what's new? So if you were not a participant in last winter's round, there have been some fairly substantial changes to the Housing Development Fund RFP, really stemming from September 2024's Affordable Housing Funding Policy that was issued by City Council. And so we'll walk through a little bit of those changes and how they impact the RFP that is now out there. So again, the focus, a new emphasis on outcomes beyond unit counts and cost per unit. Of course, we're still mindful of the financial components of applications, but we're also taking a much more holistic approach in terms of looking at, the quality of development, not necessarily just the quantity of the financial piece. And then next is an updated set of preferences and priorities, which are outlined in the RFP. The first one I would point out here is an expanded focus, again, on areas of opportunity and residential stability. So again, prioritization of those projects in high opportunity neighborhoods and those that offer stronger tenant protections regarding rental increases, as an example. Some others, we are looking to prioritize capacity building partnerships. So those that are, um, perhaps working with smaller developers to get them involved in the development ecosystem here in Charlotte. This also includes any of our work with through the Faith in Housing Initiative, if you're familiar with that. If not, I'd be happy to chat with you folks about that offline. But really looking to build these capacity building partnerships that enhance um, the affordable housing development ecosystem here in Charlotte. And then next, you've probably seen this pop up in some recent RFPs, but a local preference policy. We have been working with NCHFA specifically for the multifamily development piece. We've been working with NCHFA to create guardrails and guidelines for what that would look like. And so that is really coming to fruition here. And we're expecting to be rolled out through this RFP. And really what that entails is a set number of units that are set aside for a community-based waiting list. And then next, this is new, even was not included in the winter RFP, but has been new for this summer's round, which is the energy efficiency bonus. So really looking to build off of the work through the strategic energy action plan put out by the city. And so as part of that, the city Housing Trust Fund and Housing Development Fund will be offering a bonus of up to 10% above the requested gap financing amount for projects that demonstrate energy efficiency measures that exceed those base level requirements, be it by NCHFA or the state of North Carolina. If you're interested in that, there is a section in the application where you can indicate as such, and we will work with you to determine your eligibility for that category or for that prioritization. And then, of course, we have some revised evaluation criteria, again, building off that affordable housing funding policy, specifically changes in our scoring methodology and developer eligibility. First is a stronger evaluation criteria on long-term affordability and economic mobility impact. So you can see that demonstrated through the increased prioritization of resident services and also the extended affordability periods that are now part of the Housing Development Fund RFP. Next is eligibility limits for developers with delayed projects, just to ensure timely delivery. If you have an active commitment letter with the city, would not be concerned. If some of those dates have begun to slip or you have an expired commitment letter, please reach out and we'd be happy to discuss. And then next is prioritization for innovative ownership models. I mentioned this before under the single family, doesn't necessarily apply just to that. And there's a number of ways that that can take shape. And then again, a focus on larger units for families. That is a continued focus of the RFP. And then lastly, an expanded evaluation of property management practices. And then new this round specifically, is we have a new application. And so what this document does, it's an attempt to consolidate the application materials that we've previously had. So we have combined the developer application, the development data sheet, the city pro forma, and the single family workbook into one unified document. Again, this is a new document. So if you run into any questions or challenges with that, please do not hesitate to reach out. I built that document out, so I'd be happy to work with you directly to troubleshoot any challenges you may have. But I think it's fairly straightforward and builds really off of the development data sheet, just in a more expanded way. Of course, I just want to note that applicants would still be required to submit the supporting documentation that is outlined in the RFP, but as far as direct from the city documentation, we have consolidated into that one document. And then I'm also excited to announce that coming soon, we will have 2 additional RFPs posted, one being the rolling homeownership RFP. And so this is really just taking our homeownership and not decoupling it per se, because you're still eligible to apply for homeownership activities under this umbrella RFP, but we will have a separate rolling homeownership RFP in order to facilitate additional homeownership production across around year-round. And then next, you may have noticed that the NOAA acquisition RFP had been taken down briefly. That was just to tune that up and get it in line with the affordable housing funding policy, and that will be updated and posted. We are anticipating both of those being posted by July 1, 2025. And with that, I think we have wrapped up today's presentation, but we can now turn it over to Q&A.
Thanks, Michael. I don't see any questions in the chat or in Q&A quite yet, but let's see, we do have a hand raise. I don't think you will be able to talk in this webinar, but if you would like, just drop your question into the chat or the Q&A section. Okay. Shamai Haynes says, let's see here. What does this mean for small developments, Michael?
Yeah, great question. So for small developments, so the RFP does outline minimum development sizes. For multifamily development, I believe that is at 40 units. For home ownership, we typically don't fund one-off homes, for instance. I think kind of the lowest we have gone in the past is about 5 units. And so for smaller developments, we do have other funding opportunities, specifically through our home funding RFP, which is more targeted towards smaller scale development. And so at first I would point you towards that. But second, if you're asking more so along the lines of like smaller development entities, what we're really looking to do through that capacity building preference is to provide smaller scale developers an opportunity to work with more established developers in this realm in order to bring them up to speed with the RFP, for instance, and or provide just any capacity building efforts to get them involved in the real estate development game.
Okay.
And if I was not able to answer your question, Ms. Haynes, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a call or chat with you afterwards.
Oh, Rachel and Alexis had a similar question. What is high impact housing or a high impact area?
Yeah, great question. So we look at that from a number of different angles, right? So there's a number of different geographic goals, if you will, across the city. And so really taking a look at the variety of plans and maps that we have across the city. So for instance, of course, Council District 6 and 7 are always target geographies and will remain as such. We also have a TOD preference. And then also areas that are experiencing gentrification or neighborhood turnover. So if you have any specific locations in mind, I hate to keep saying this, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to walk through those with you. But yeah, I mean that in a nutshell, I would say those are kind of the big three. But again, happy to chat with you about any specific properties that you're inquiring about.
Thanks, Michael. Scott asks, the energy efficiency bonus criteria are somewhat vague. Can you provide examples as to what can specifically be done to qualify for the 10% bonus?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a new one for the RFP, and it's something that we're kind of putting out there as a pilot, if you will. And so what I would encourage you to do is take a look at the language that's included within the RFP. So it can include a variety of different things, whether it's building envelope, energy efficient appliances that go above and beyond what would necessarily be required by NCHFA. But it's really just looking to take energy efficiency to the next level compared to what is required by whether law, statute, or guidelines from other funding sources. So like I said, be happy to chat with you if you have any questions about specific things that you're considering. And yeah, would be more than happy to chat through those to kind of determine eligibility.
Okay, Ms. Haynes had a follow-up question. She says, we've been encouraged to work with larger developers, but I'd like to know what that looks like. We already own our property, so we only want to rehab and expand what we have and implement an equity-based structure. I hope you can understand this question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would recommend reaching out to me directly just to chat through the specifics of what you're looking at. I apologize that we don't have the ability to just interact directly here. But I'd be happy to chat through that with you. Based on kind of what you're saying, I think there may be some opportunities through some of our other RFPs. Not to say you shouldn't consider the Housing Development Fund, but for instance, we have a NOAA preservation RFP that will be posted, like I said, on July 1st. And I think based on kind of what you're indicating, that may be something you may want to target and look at. But as I mentioned, happy to chat with you offline about this and maybe troubleshoot and make sure we're putting you in the right lane in terms of pursuing city funding.
Cool. Eliza Hammond asks, would you send a copy of this recording out to participants? We will give us a little bit of time. We'll take this recording and post it on YouTube as well as on our website. So yes, to answer your question, we won't send it out specifically, or I guess we could. Michael, would you like to send that out specifically to this
Yeah.
list?
So what I'll do is, if you receive the invite for this webinar, I will make a note that once we have that posted on our RFP landing page, I will send out a notice to folks just to let them know that it's been posted. And it'll be right there next to the RFP application document. You'll see a link to the recording and you can just click through there.
Perfect. Alexis Bostic asks, so is it like having an lead certification?
Sorry, just taking a note there. Yeah, similar, right? Yep. So we're looking at we're working with our colleagues over in the the folks who are overseeing the Strategic Energy Action Plan, working with them closely to sort of build out this program and better understand what it is that the market can deliver. But something like a lead certification would certainly be something that we're driving towards. Not necessarily saying that you have to pursue that per se, because I know those certifications can be costly and or challenging to receive. But I'd be happy to chat through what it is you're looking at specifically.
Ada Esther Gil Jimenez asked, was this meeting recorded by chance? I was just able to join and missed everything. Yes, it will. It is being recorded, and we will post the recording, and Michael will send out a follow-up to let everyone know that this was posted. Tori Feemster asks, is the affordability restriction regarding 8% AMI on home ownership tied to only to initial qualification, or is ongoing compliance required during ownership?
Yeah, so ongoing compliance is required. I would refer you to the RFP. I don't have that information immediately off the top of my head, but there is a resale restriction and also a use restriction, right? So for instance, if the home is developed and then purchased by an owner, it cannot then be used for rental purposes, right? So it would have to be owner occupied. And there is a resale restriction that applies for, I want to say 15 years for home ownership developments. But great question.
Yeah. Tori Feemster asks, how is the affordability bonus calculated, and does it increase funding allocation or application score?
Is this for the energy efficiency question?
I believe so.
Yeah, a great question. So that is one, like I said, that we're still working through the scoring rubric, if you will, on that. Will be finalized, of course, before any awards are announced, but we're really looking to better understand what the possibilities are out there and what folks are exploring. So if you have, again, any specific questions about possible energy efficiency upgrades you are looking to make, don't hesitate to reach out. And it's entirely a bonus. It is not a requirement of the RFP. You are not excluded if you do not apply for it by any means. We are really looking to pilot a new initiative here and working with our development partners and would welcome those conversations. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, I think that was in relation to, let's see, I was referring to the affordable bonus in Section 8, actually.
Section 8. I'm thinking that must be in reference to, I'm looking at the RFP right now under Section 8, which is the submission instructions. Okay, 7.2. Sorry, I did see that pop up. Yeah, so that's the UDO. So I would, if you have questions about the UDO specifically, I'd be happy to connect you with my colleagues over in planning to chat through those. But really what you'd want to click through is that link there that states it says more information in the Charlotte UDO for any questions relating to affordability bonuses. That is typically targeting, well, I won't say it's inclusive of both purely affordable developments, but also mixed income developments as well.
Okay. And I think Tori Fincher had a follow-up question since you're on that one. Will first-time affordable home ownership developers be eligible?
Yeah, great question. So the answer is yes. We welcome applications from all, but I will point you towards the application requirements. So we would need to see demonstrated, or one of the evaluation criteria is demonstrated capacity as well as experience in affordable housing development. If you don't have that or are concerned about that, that capacity and or experience, we're happy to chat through that. And I would encourage you to reach out to me directly.
Okay. Mike Carmichael asks, as it comes to ADUs, what does that look like when it comes to large or small development opportunities?
Yeah, great question. So ADUs. So we do have an ADU RFP. I'm not sure if that has been posted yet or not, but it is in the pipeline of activities here at the city. It's a little outside of this RFP, although not entirely, right? So if you're looking to do homeownership development, which is inclusive of ADUs, that's certainly a possibility, and we would welcome that. But for those types of unique questions, again, I would recommend you reach out to me directly and we can chat through those just to determine eligibility. Because whenever we're talking about ADUs, we're likely then talking about, rental ADUs or being leveraged as rental ADUs, which is certainly a possibility. But it would require us to have some conversations about what that would look like just to ensure that it is an eligible activity based on what it is you're looking to do.
Alexis Bostic asks, will the permitting process be priority for these projects?
Yeah, great question. So permitting typically occurs after the RFP process and awards are made. And so what I can tell you is that the sketch plan review, we do have set aside time with our friends over the Development Center to review and respond to sketch plans. The outcome of that review is sort of a preliminary thumbs up or thumbs down of whether or not this is viable based on zoning regulations. And so in that sense, yes, you do get some prioritization there. But in terms of prioritization with permitting, no, not per se. I'd be happy to reach out to or connect you with our folks over in planning to better understand what that looks like. But it's a little outside of the scope of the RFP, if you will.
Okay, that looks like all the questions. Anyone else have any more questions? Folks, a few minutes.
And then while we're just kind of waiting for any questions to come in, one thing I did want to follow up on is there was a question about location. And so as part of the RFP, one of the requirements is that you submit something called your housing locational tool score. And so that'll give you a good sense of how that location is looking in the eyes of city staff who are reviewing these applications. So whenever you go into that tool and enter the development data that you're required to submit, it'll generate some numbers for you that'll indicate how it scores. And so there's not really a threshold that we're necessarily looking at, and it certainly depends on the development type. But I would generally say if you're scoring above 20, you're likely in a priority area for the city. And that's a composite of 4 different measurements, each one on a 10-point scale. So 40 possible points. Anything above 20, typically, I won't say universally, because that's certainly not the case, but typically, if you're scoring over 20, you likely fall in one of the categories that would be considered for a locational prioritization.
Excellent. I think that is it for the questions. We didn't have any more come in. I think we're good, Michael.
Okay, well, very good. Well, I know I've said this repeatedly now, but if you have any specific questions, I am more than happy to chat with you. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me via email listed here. And yeah, I'd be happy to chat through any questions or concerns you do have. So don't feel like this is a one-shot opportunity to get those questions out. I know if you're anything like me, you typically think about things and 30 minutes later, the question pops into your head. So if you want to reach out, please don't hesitate to do so. Happy to chat with you. But otherwise, really appreciate everyone joining today's call. And I will be on the lookout for any emails and then applications. So thanks so much, everybody.